Held high, hanging in the noose, the trapdoor giving way, Leeds twitch on the rope and take their last Premier League breath. From Bielsa to Big Sam, from exhilaration at the Etihad to battling out at Birmingham, and now they are 4-1 down. What a disgusting way to drop out of the Championship. Absolutely terrible. They've waltzed their way through as Spurs celebrate in front of their own fans. What an awful way to give it up on the final day. A chairman who sacrificed the golden goose, hoping for Red Bull to give them wings, who dismissed relegation as impossible, is now paying a heavy price. An absentee landlord for the decisions that he's made to plunge Leeds back into the Championship. No evolution, no recruiting of better talent. All that stability has gone in the Premier League, and the potential to challenge for Europe, you hope, has gone. One constant is the fans, as Leeds United have to suffer the ignominy of Lucas Moura just going through 1, 2, 3 players to the edge of the penalty area to give Spurs a fall. It's disgusting, it's schoolboy, it's terrible, it's amateurish. But the only thing we have left here is the constant, the fans. Always Leeds, always loyal, but always deserving better than this. That is an absolute disgrace. They don't deserve to stay up when they defend like that. 4-1 Spurs lead.
Yeah, I mean, you can argue. I mean, it's a fantastic finish, but it's almost like he's running at mannequins. You know, when you're playing and when you're training and you're in a practice session where you're practicing your finishing, and he goes past 3 defenders like they're not there.
Just blow now. Just blow now. Boos as Leeds restart. Absolute disgrace. They've been absolutely hammered by 4 goals to 1. And they drop into the Championship. 16 years it took to get back into the top flight. 3 years wasted, the 2 before that wasted. Would you ever think Marcelo Bielsa was here? It's finished here at Ellen Road with Leeds back in the Championship. Leeds United 1, Tottenham 4, and that was absolutely disgusting.
Leeds players down on their haunches. Liam Cooper puts his hand to his face, clearly emotional. Luke Ayling slumped over as well. You're not fit to wear the shirt is the chant from all 4 sides of Ellen Road. And they're not wrong with some of those players out there. Some of them were part of that Bielsa team that managed to get Leeds into the Premier League in what was a wonderful period, a wonderful year. The applause are for Adam Forshaw, who walks towards the Kop end to applaud. He was one of those part of that team. He deserves those applauds for his service to the club, even though he has been injured for a vast majority of his last couple of seasons. But there are some players out there, Neil Redfern, who will not get a single clap from any of these supporters, as a banner away to my left says "Hail Bielsa" in the Kop end. The Leeds fans making their voice well and truly known, Redders.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I think since Marcelo Bielsa, and some of the big decisions have fallen to the hierarchy, and they've fallen woefully short. I have to say, the recruitment, the managing of trying to evolve the team at this level, not easy, granted, but this, to be fair, I mean, we're having to go at the players now. These players aren't good enough to play at this level. It's as simple as that. It's not their fault they've been recruited, but they're just not good enough to play at this level.
The applause around us for Greenwood as he heads towards the Kop end as well. That Hail Bielsa banner, white and yellow trim with a Bielsa picture in the middle of it, right in the centre of the Kop, is held up high as some people around us are even fighting with each other, arguing with each other in the seats away to my right hand side here, with the reaction towards those players maybe not universal. Tyler Adams is out there trying to console some of the players. He's been sorely missed. He's been one of the very few signings over the last 12 to 18 months that's actually had a positive impact on this club. Willie Gnonto, another one of those, as he heads towards the Kop away to our left hand side. He puts his hands up in apology, does Willie Gnonto, and that is what the applause are for now from those around us here. And he will go right over to those fans, Will Gnonto. Looks like he might give his shirt over to someone down there, but he's going to apologise. He shares a hug with a young fan at the front of the Kop, and away to my right hand side as the Tottenham players receive the accolades from their travelling fans. You've got Junior Firpo, Adam Forshaw applauding towards the South Stand, who are all still there in good numbers. But again, they're not getting the warmest of receptions. some of those players out there. Liam Cooper applauds as he heads towards the tunnel here in front of that south stand. We want you to get in touch with us on BBC Radio Leeds. If you left early or if you've been listening further afield, get in touch on the phones, text, tweets and on WhatsApp as well. Inside Ellen Road, those Leeds players still making their way around here. There's an Argentina flag flying in the family stand on that far side. And Big Sam is in the centre circle, just next to the centre circle, applauding. Will it be the last time we've seen him at Ellen Road? Many here might be hoping that it is, because he hasn't managed to get the upturning results that he needed, Redders. He needed and said he wanted the side to have their fate in their own hands on the final day. They didn't, and let's be honest, even if they did, they wouldn't have got the result they needed today.
No, not today. I mean, to be honest with you, you had to really take this Spurs side to task. They're struggling, for form. The manager left. They've got a caretaker manager in charge of them, and it was just too easy. It was so disjointed, the performance today. The side that Sam Allardyce put out, it didn't have any balance. You've got defenders in striking positions. It just looked a mess, to be honest.
A line of stewards in purple and yellow with some police there as well, aligning the tunnel like a guard of dishonour, you could say, for this Leeds United team as they make their way down between them and off into the sunset. Many of them likely never to be seen wearing the white of Leeds again, and we'd like to know your thoughts on that. Who stays, who should go, and can this side get themselves back into the Premier League quick sharp? Because the last time we sat here, and many of you will have done exactly this in 2004 and watched the side get relegated, you might have thought they'd be back quickly. Well, it took 16 years then. How long will it take this time? Luke Ayling gets the applause of the south stand and he claps towards them as well. With Weston McKennie close by him, I'm not sure those applause are in McKennie's direction. They're certainly in Luke Ayling's direction, who receives a chant as well. Robles, the goalkeeper, is the final player who's out there on that far side. In fact, I think you can see a couple of others. Jack Harrison is just having a few high fives on that far side. He's someone who certainly today, Redders, showed what it takes to be a Leeds United player. Sadly, the other 10 with him didn't necessarily do that.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he's really evolved since he's been at the club. I mean, he's a proper goal threat now. I mean, we know that he can go past players and make assists. I thought he was Leeds' standout player today. There's no two ways about it. I thought he showed real moments of quality in a performance that lacked quality, really, from Leeds. And he got his reward by getting the goal, which he took really well.
And now the anger turns towards the board. Sack the board is the chant here, as down in front of me I try and see who is still left in that director's box. I can see Eddie Gray stood there, I can see Gordon Strachan there, and I can see Paul Bell, the commercial director, there as well. Andrea Rabazani not present at Ellen Road today, as his club, the club that he owns the majority of shares in, has been relegated from the Premier League. None of the regular faces of the 49ers are there either in that director's box. It's even getting a bit heated in there. There's some crosswords being said by a couple of the people who are sat in those posh white seats in front of us. Jack Harrison, the only player left out on the field here, and it looks like he's doing a lap of honour because his time at Leeds will likely come to an end this summer now. And let's not forget, Neil, someone tried to sell him in January. Let's not forget that, Popey.
Hey, let's not forget that, Johnny. Yes, right at the death. And fair play, he comes back when his head could have been all over the place and goes and puts in performances and comes off now, and quite rightly remembered for all the great work he's done. And I think surely now we see the last of him. Do we see the last of him, Gnonto, and any other of any value? It's horrible. It's been a disgrace today, Johnny, and it sums up what's gone on here for 18 months.
Yeah, that round of applause was for Jack Harrison. He is the last player to go off down the tunnel then, as people start to filter out of this ground. Angus Kinnear not to be seen in the director's box. I didn't see when he left the director's box. It may have been quick sharp. He may have been advised to do so, because it isn't the prettiest of atmospheres inside Ellen Road right now, as the players are all off the field and the fans are filtering out of the ground. And on the far side, that Argentina flag flutters still in the hands of a couple of supporters there, with many a chant today of Marcelo Bielsa. And that's where this all went wrong, isn't it? 15 months ago, the decision to get rid of Marcelo Bielsa, Neil Redfern. The plan then changed to be a plan based on Jesse Marsch and Red Bull football, and sign players that would suit that. That plan was wrong, and the players they signed couldn't cope with Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, there's not many American footballers that I've seen that have done well in the Premier League, to be honest with you. I mean, there's a gulf between American football on football in the States and football over here at the highest level. So it's always going to be a big ask taking it down that road. And I think, hasty, very hasty to get rid of Marcelo Bielsa. I think the other thing as well is, it was a case of either backing Bielsa or backing Horta, and they obviously backed Victor Horta, which again, they backed the wrong man.
Yeah, and Victor Horta not here today, relieved of his duties just a few weeks ago, so not here to face the music. The club's director of football here today. Sack the board rings out again, this time from the south stand away to my right hand side here, as they're now being ushered out. Lots of police down in that part of the ground as well, and people now making their way out. And maybe you are as well. Maybe you're in your car, maybe you're listening to us on BBC Sounds and you're heading home, maybe you're heading to the pub. Wouldn't blame you if you're doing so, but we'd love to hear from you on the texts and on the tweets and on the phones as well. 0800 389 3333. We're with you until 8 o'clock tonight. We've got a live episode of Don't Go to Bed Just Yet, our Leeds United podcast on the way. Simon Ricks from the Kaiser Chiefs will join us, but myself, Johnny Buchan and Neil Redfern here with you to take all your calls, texts, tweets and your reaction, however you want to get it into us as well, on what has been a dismal afternoon for Leeds United, a dark afternoon for Leeds United, and an afternoon that results in them heading back to the Championship. Have your say on your club on the Football Forum.
The Football Forum.
For me, it's all positive. Fans need to calm down a little bit and really get behind the lads.
Have your say on your club.
I think it's just typical Leeds, isn't it? It's been like it all season.
Call now on 0800 389 3333.
There's no passion whatsoever. Teams have disappeared overnight.
We just don't seem to get in the rub of the green.
The Football Forum.
BBC Radio Leeds.
Call now on 0800 389 3333.
I'm just really, really pleased with the way they all played and now they've pressed them, really.
Or send us a WhatsApp message 08000 321 333 and start your message with WYS.
The Football Forum.
Football Forum on BBC Radio Leeds. Johnny Buchan and the former Whites boss Neil Redfern here with you today in an emptying Elland Road as the Whites go down with a whimper.
At the moment, it's all Spurs. It's
playing to the edge of the penalty area. It comes back here to Son into Kane. Harry Kane scores with a first attempt on goal. The boos ring out around Elland Road. 29 Premier League goals for Harry Kane. He's given one chance, one goal, and is it the one that sends Leeds United into the Championship? What a disgraceful start. From the moment McKennie gave the ball away, they never recovered it. Spurs string 20 passes together and Leeds United are the victims of it. And guess who scored it? Harry Kane. It is Leeds United 0, Spurs 1. And the worst of the worst is being feared. Tries to get the ball into Porro, and he has on the right side. Porro shoots, 2-0 Spurs! And people coming back to their seats will be sitting in the Championship next season, because right at the beginning of the second half, Spurs have done what they did at the first half, and they have put this game beyond Leeds United, you feel. They've put any hope of staying in the Premier League beyond Leeds United, who look around open-mouthed, open-armed, and, well, quite honestly, cannot believe what they've seen. Again, a terrible start to the first half, a terrible start to the second half. And Spurs are 2-0 up, and Leeds United's hopes of staying in the Premier League have all but evaporated here in the Elland Road sunshine.
Well, chance of you're not fit to wear the shirt, loud and clear from two ends at least, the south stand and the Kop end. Just a reminder of how the table looks right now, then Everton will be staying in the Premier League because they're leading by 1-0 against Bournemouth at Goodison. Leicester City are 2-0 up against West Ham at the King Power Stadium, but that won't be enough for them. Leeds, obviously trailing here by 2-0, are going down with a whimper.
Here's Rutter out to Harrison. Harrison on his right foot, holds up, right foot again, shoots in the bottom left-hand corner. And have Leeds given themselves something of the thinnest of lifelines? Jack Harrison, right foot, right past Forster at the Kop end, something to cheer about. It may end in tears, but at least we've had a few cheers as well at the right type. Harrison with a nice goal. It's Leeds 1, Spurs 2. Porro has Kane to his left, Son down the middle. Kane is in here. Kane looking for a second. Kane 3-1 Spurs. Hello Championship Leeds United. A brace for Harry Kane. He celebrates at the Cheese Wedge corner. And as soon as Leeds were back into it, they're back out of it. They're trailing 3-1 and they're heading down. And the platform built for ambition, now a scaffold. The head that was held high, hanging in the noose. The trapdoor giving way. Leeds twitch on the rope and take their last Premier League breath. from Bielsa to Big Sam, from exhilaration the Etihad to battling out at Birmingham, and now they are 4-1 down. What a disgusting way to drop out of the Championship. Absolutely terrible. They've waltzed their way through as Spurs celebrate in front of their own fans. What an awful way to give it up on the final day. A chairman who sacrificed the golden goose, hoping for Red Bull to give them wings, who dismissed relegation as impossible, is now paying a heavy price. An absentee landlord for the decisions that he's made to plunge Leeds back into the Championship. No evolution, no recruiting of better talent. All that stability has gone in the Premier League, and the potential to challenge we already hope has gone. One constant is the fans, as Leeds United have to suffer the ignominy of Lucas Moura just going through 1, 2, 3 players to the edge of the penalty area to give Spurs a fall. It's disgusting, it's schoolboy, it's terrible, it's amateurish.
A disastrous afternoon, a disastrous season, a disastrous 15 months of mismanagement, resulting in Leeds United heading back to the Championship after just a 3-year stay in the Premier League. Get in touch with us right now, share your emotions on BBC Radio Leeds.
The Football Forum.
BBC Radio Leeds.
Call now on 0800 389 3333 or send us a WhatsApp message 08000 321 333 and start your message with WYS.
Johnny Buchan and the former Whites boss Neil Redfern here with you. Get your thoughts into us on the text, tweets, WhatsApps as well. Just to confirm the bottom end of the Premier League then for you today following these results. Arsenal 5, Wolves 0, Aston Villa 2, Brighton 1, Brentford 1, Man City 0, Chelsea 1, Newcastle 1, Crystal Palace 1, Nottingham Forest 1, Everton 1, Bournemouth 0, Leeds 1, Tottenham 4, Leicester City 2, West Ham 1, Manchester United 2, Fulham 1 and Southampton 4, Liverpool 4. It means Everton finish 17th. They stay in the Premier League. Leicester, Leeds United and Southampton go down, with Everton and Leicester winning and doing their job on the final day. Leeds United capitulating to an embarrassing 4-1 loss at home to Tottenham Hotspur. Let's get some reactions, shall we, from in the stands. Catherine Hanna is out there for us and she's joined by a Leeds fan.
I am, yeah, Johnny. We're beginning our group therapy session down here in the West Stand. Shane's alongside me, who drives up from Peterborough to come and watch Leeds every single game. A sad day for Leeds United.
Yeah, it is. It's been a tough season, not gone our way in many games, but yeah, we go again. We go again. We get this season, we rebuild, and we go again.
We'll talk about the match first, and then about what needs to happen next. Just how disappointed were you with the performance today? They didn't seem to have a lot of fight about them. No, not at all. It's not a performance that you look back and think, well, that was Leeds, get into them. I thought Forshaw had a great game, but there's not many that are around the pitch that you go, that was good. Up front, we just didn't have it going forward, and considering we had to win today, I thought it was an extremely defensive team in the first place. There's so much that hasn't gone right for Leeds United this season. If you were going to earmark one thing in particular that's disappointed you, what would you say has been at the root of all the problems this season?
Oh, blimey. We've certainly not had the fight that we had last year. And we should have made decisions at the board level prior to the World Cup. Going into a poor run before the World Cup, sticking with it, and then thinking things were going to change by doing the same thing. It's poor management, absolute disastrous. And decisions with 3 managers in a season, that's terrible. Absolutely poor performance from leadership, and it's leadership from the top down. Gutted today, but we'll come back.
What needs to happen now over the summer to make sure that it is a quick return to the Premier League and not another 16-year absence?
I like the hunger of the youngsters. I just hope that they start investing. We've spent so much over the past few seasons bringing in under-21s, under-18s, all that youth that they've been developing. Let's go see some of it. And hopefully they've got enough about them to bring us bouncing straight back up. But some of these so-called more experienced players that they've brought in, they've not had the fight of the Premier League.
thank you for talking to me. Difficult afternoon for Leeds United fans, but as you say, we go again.
We go again, and a long drive home, probably sobbing to a radio.
Stick some happy tunes on once you get out of the Radio Leeds area. Thanks for joining us. Shane talking to us live on BBC Radio Leeds. Back to you, Johnny.
Shane, yeah, safe journey home, and same goes to all you who are jumping in your cars right now and heading back down. Can you get in touch with us? We'd love you to do so. 0800 389 3333, should I say, if you are able to do so hands-free. Redders, there's someone away to my right-hand side, a young fan crying away to my right-hand side. It's an emotional day. It's one of those days that will live long in the memory for all of the wrong reasons. They didn't show any of what they needed to show today, though. They utterly deserve what they have got this afternoon and over this season as a whole.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a really disappointing end to the season for Leeds. I just looked at the lineup today. I looked at the performance. It was disjointed. The lineup was disjointed. It made it difficult for the players. I don't think the players believed in what was being put out in front of them. And in the end, when you're playing against better players, I mean, the first goal, it's just passive. You're playing for your future in the Premier League. You've got to be white hot and you've got to be at it from the first whistle. And Spurs are allowed to get right, to the edge of Leeds' penalty area, and then you're getting good players on the ball in and around there, and you're 1-0 down and you've only played 10 minutes. It's and that set the scene. And then there's a little bit of a renaissance, a little bit of an upbeat in performance, but again it's still disjointed. And then you're asking defenders to score goals because of the lineup that they put out. The chances that they created are falling to Robin Koch and Struijk and Ayling. They're not strikers, and the whole thing today for me was just a mess.
Lots of messages coming in, so let me read some of these then that are just dropping in on the text and on WhatsApp as well. Not solely about fight, this is about quality. Allowing Orta to run the club and Chase Marsh as a successor to Bielsa was the worst decision ever. Our best players are average at best. The rest not fit for the Premier League. What an absolute mess. That's from Kev from Liversidge. This one also comes into us as well on Twitter. Some of these coming into us here. Loads of these coming in. Ed says, I'm listening from the Channel Island of Hermy says, loss was expected, but I'm still gutted. Big question is to ask, who do we keep? Who deserves to wear the shirt? Off to the Championship we go. Hopefully it's not another 16 years before we return. The expat educator says, pathetic. Utterly deserved though. Team is horrendously put together. Too many weak-minded players and too many with no experience of this league. Cowards are hiding as well at the moment. Hiding over in Italy, hiding in America. He says nowhere to be seen. He says sort out the ownership of this club and give us a chance next year. I've had a message as well from Simon Walton, one of our expert summarisers. Leeds fan through and through, played for the club as well. You know him well, Redders. He says no fight, no desire. They deserved everything they got. They've been shocking from top to bottom all year and we deserved what we got. I'm gutted. He says the fact our £38 million record signing has been signed to win the Under-21s League is beyond belief. It comes back to recruitment again, doesn't it? Absolutely. The recruitment has been really, really poor.
Yeah, listen, you're only as good as your players. And even the best teams in the world, they've got the best players. They've got players that are good players. And I look at Leeds, and they've not got enough players that are good enough to play at this level. It's as simple as that. And it ain't as if they haven't got the money to do it, because they've spent a lot of money. It's interesting to one of the last callers that Catherine was interviewing, saying about the youth, and how much is invested in youth. He's right. Get them in, put them in. They're good enough. Get them in. They're old enough. But there's been none of that for me, because they're obviously not that good, are they? Because they put them in. Simple as that. And that's the difference. That's the acid test. And you've got to be brave enough, and you've got to have the wherewithal to put them in and give them that opportunity if you believe in it.
0800 389 3333. Give us a call if you're sat in your car in the Fullerton or somewhere nearby and you're waiting to try and get out of Ellen Road. We'd love to speak to you. Let's speak to Oakley first, who's done just that. Hi, Oakley.
Hiya.
Sorry we're not speaking on better terms. Give us a flavour of how you're feeling right now.
Well, I mean, it's not exactly a shocking result. I mean, it's going into the last day against Tottenham. And while Tottenham haven't exactly been the best team this season, they don't exactly play to the usual standard, we all knew it was going to be a pretty hard game to get anything out of. So, while not shocking, it's very disappointing.
Overall, then, why has it got to this point? We're talking about recruitment. Has that been the key factor for you, do you think, Oakley?
Yes, from player level to management level. I just don't think that Potter and Radrizzani have done what the club really needs. Switching to a Red Bull brand of football just didn't suit the players that we already had. And then you bring in all these Red Bull players and it still doesn't suit the system, and it just makes you wonder why recruitment's been this bad over this last, 40-year period.
Because money's been spent, Neil, hasn't it? That's the point as well. Money has been spent. It's not like we can stand here now and say, well, the problem has been they haven't put their hands in the pockets, Redders, because they have.
No, I mean, I get the feeling, look, I mean, having seen Marcelo Bielsa work and listening to him interviewed, and he seems like a man of his word. He's not one of those that wants to go criticising, and I think he's protected and backed the ownership at times when there's obviously been they've been at odds, because there's been times when they should have brought players in and he's not brought them in, he's not sanctioned it, because he obviously didn't fancy the players that Orta wanted to bring in. It's as simple as that, and in the end it cost him his job. But Leeds should have, the owner or the main man that makes the main decisions has got to get tougher. Your recruiter's got to come under a bit of scrutiny here, and he never did. And what's happened is you get to this scenario now and it's a mess.
How worried are you about the summer ahead, Oakley?
I'm less worried and more excited, because I know it's obviously an horrible feeling, but it's also a time where Leeds has to grow. We can't spend time grovelling and sobbing over what's happened. We need to heads up, look forward, rebuild, because if we don't do well this summer, if we don't recruit who we need, we could be in for a dire season in Championship as well, because as far as I'm concerned, what I've seen these last couple of games, there's only a couple of players out there. Even if they stay, I'm just not sure they're even fit for a Championship team, some of them, because they just don't play for the shirt, they don't play for the badge, they don't play well enough to the standard of a Premier League team, never mind the Championship.
Oakley, thanks for your call. Lots of people getting in touch, so I'm going to try and move through people as quickly as possible, but that means there's absolutely room for you if you want to get in touch with us today on 0800 389 3333. Johnny Bucket and Neil Redfern here with you on BBC Radio Leeds. Simon Ricks from the Kaiser Chiefs is alongside us as well. He's made his way up. We're bringing you a live version of the podcast Don't Go to Bed Just Yet from around about 7:30 this evening. Simon, lifelong fan, how are you feeling?
Well, I feel like I felt all week, which is I knew we were going to get relegated, so I've had a lot of time to deal with it, so I don't feel that bad today. And just the other results just prove it, don't they? We needed to win and everyone else lost, and the opposite thing happened, so it's not like we were even close to staying up. And the results of the last sort of 9-10 games have just been nowhere near good enough. You can't not win in the last 9 and think you're going to stay up. So yeah, it's just been a really bad season, and lots of bad decisions that have been just discussed there being made, and just hope that, we've been told, I think, that there's going to be some decisive action by the club in the next few days or whatever, almost immediately, hopefully, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we will see what happens. We'll keep you abreast of anything that does happen in the coming days, of course. Don't forget to follow us at BBC WYS. Loads of reaction tomorrow morning as well on Breakfast with Richard from 6 o'clock. Charles Newton says you cannot blame the players or the manager if the owners of the club cannot be bothered to show up. Questions need to be answered as to who's in charge to take the club forwards. It needs sorting quickly, or there will be no immediate return to the Premier League. Charles referencing the fact there that Andrea Radrizzani not here in attendance today, and none of the regular big hitters from the San Francisco 49ers Enterprises here today either. Pete says deserved it, not good enough. Players let the club down, along with poor managers and poor recruitment. And this one comes in as well. Lots of people getting in touch here as well on Twitter. This one from Italian Job says fitting end to an absolutely lousy season. Totally gutted right now. Hope we're going to have a clear out in the summer, including the board, the players and the 49ers, because I am done. Right, back to the phone lines we go. Next up, Jim. Hi, Jim.
Hi, guys. You all right? If you are, you're better than I am.
Go on.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we expected today in terms of the football, in terms of the players, their capabilities. The bigger point is we've had an owner who, for the last 2 years, since when our end of our first season back up there, where really he should have invested on players who could play Bielsa's system. He trusted in Orta, who obviously, I've said time I've been on this programme before, the recruitment's been ridiculously poor. He's not understood what was needed for Bielsa. Bielsa's got hung out to dry, and basically the team has been wound down. And really, it's on the back of the fact, if you watch the Take Us Home Prime Video, episode 1, Radrizzani tells his dad he's going to make money out of this club, and that's what he's done all the way He's been good at maximising money out of the fans. When it's come to the spending, I've heard people say it's not fairly that he's put his hand in his pocket. I'm pretty sure that this season it's been a zero spend in terms of income, outlay and income. So that's not putting your hand in your pocket when you get 160 million. So going forward, I think the San Francisco 49ers need to realise you shouldn't be taking advantage of these people. I mean, I've been on and I've suggested players who've turned out to be great players, big myself up. But, normal people can see a player on YouTube and see whether he's not good enough. You can't see whether he's good enough, I'll give you that. But some of the choices that they've made when they've gone forward, Leeds United, when they have spent money, have been ridiculous. Dan James, Ruta, the guy we got who's suing us now for his wages and only played 20 minutes. It's been absolutely ridiculous when we have recruited. There's no idea about football, and the owner needs to go. Some of the players are obviously playing in little cliques now, so having little arguments with themselves. Some like that I don't think invested in the club that much. Some of the ones who are invested in the club aren't good enough, bless them. And I think we're in a real mess to some extent. It needs somebody to come in and basically say, this is what we need for the Championship. You look at Luton, who's gone up. You look at Coventry, and I've got a Middlesbrough fan. Coventry beat Middlesbrough, and I said, how did they win? He said, they were bigger and uglier than us. All right then, what happened to Coventry? Luton were bigger and uglier than them. Look at some of the players Leeds have got. They're lightweight. They don't have the physical attributes for the Premier League. The first thing you need in the Premier League is pace. If you've got the pace to stay with somebody, you can start playing your game. It's about your technique. When Marcelo Bielsa's trying to play man for man, and all these so-called pundits are saying, oh, well, the system's been found out. The only thing they've found out is that, no, they're not as fast as the other players. You can't man and mark somebody if he's faster than you, because as soon as he takes off, he's gone. You've got the best view in the entire ground that the goal being scored against us, and that's what were happening. That was because the recruitment was poor. So it leads to complete shambles from top to bottom. There's not one aspect of this club that I could not, as an outsider, an amateur, suggest to make big improvements on that would be logically so easy to do. It's a disgrace. And we're such a big club, and you said in your commentary, there's kids crying. That's what it's all about. It's about the fans. And we've been let down as a city, and the fans have been let down by the owner. He needs to go. He needs to stop. If he's over in Italy, he just needs to stay there.
Jim, appreciate your call, really passionate call. Thank you very much for that. That's Jim making a lot of points, one of them being the physicality of the players that have been brought in, Neil, not being up to Premier League standard, and we've said that about quite a few of them, haven't we, those that have been signed. The physical aspect of the Premier League is such a big factor.
Yeah, I mean, it's quicker, they're brighter. I did the Liverpool game for Radio Leeds and BBC Radio Leeds, and there was a gulf in class and there was a gulf in physique. And, the chances that Liverpool got, they were around Leeds' box in 3 passes. The chances that Leeds created, it took a lot of build-up play and a lot of connecting passes and getting around there. And, it's a different type of football, the Premier League. I agree with the last caller totally by, who recruits. So the most important person that you sign in the summer is the recruiter, because he brings the players in. Managers are only as good as the players. It's as simple as that. If you've got good players, then you've got a chance of setting them up, you've got a chance of doing well with them. But they've not recruited well. It's as simple as that. And I think the club's dined out on Bielsa for a while. When it started going wrong, I think there was a bit of stubbornness there, but they knew about that with Bielsa before. But somebody should have had the foresight to oversee that, and that got brought up. And they backed the wrong man. They basically backed the recruiter and got rid of the man who got them up.
I think on the transfers as well, it's a little bit more detailed than that, because I think in summer we all kind of felt like we knew Calvin and Rafinha were going to go. We signed some players. We thought that Aronson looked okay. We thought Adams, who has looked pretty good. In January, signed Vuba, who looks pretty good. But overall, you'd say there's some other ones that have just been completely bizarre. Like Ruter seems like the most bizarre at the time when you really needed like somebody to really help us out, dig us out of this hole. 35 million could have bought a couple of players like maybe like, I don't want to say Danny Ings, but Danny Ings, and a midfielder. But also I think there's another thing which we haven't really covered that much, which is there's a few players hanging around that, do you think that if Joe Gelhardt, Dan James, Cresswell, Drama even, were on the bench or available to Leeds United, that they could have made a difference this season? Because when Big Sam last week saying we haven't got a striker on the bench, if you'd had Gelhardt there, I know we don't think maybe he's quite as good as we thought he was going to be, but he scored some vital goals in the previous season. Dan James, when we had some injury crisis, Cresswell, there was a point where we didn't have any defenders available, right? And we'd got Llorente in Rome, if you notice I haven't mentioned, and we had Cresswell at Millwall, they would have come in at that point, and that's either you're going to have a very, very high quality small squad, which is what Guardiola does, right? Or you need a lot of players to cover.
Yeah, and Bielsa wanted a high-quality small squad, didn't he, as well? We know that. Let's speak to Tom, who was here at the game today. 0800 389 3333 as the stewards start to make their way out of Ellen Road. Hiya, Tom.
Hi, guys. My point is a little bit different to most of the common callers that have been talking about recruitment and performance. And what I'm about to say is not a reflection on the fact that we've just not been good enough. But something that really winds me up in particular today is the crowd. I think the crowd have been awful. Now, okay, for me, if you make a mistake in life, what happens is what you do after it. Now, at Leeds, if any players make mistakes, the crowd are all over them. We had the crowd allaying Tottenham today. They gave McKennie abuse when he went off. 1 minute they're chanting Marcelo Bielsa, and then even though quite a few of Bielsa's players are on the pitch, the next thing they're saying is you're not fit to wear the shirt. Now, I just think that if you're going to do that kind of behaviour, what does that really say to future players? Like, oh, do I want to go to Leeds? Right, well, what are they like? And they're seeing the crowd act the way they do. I mean, come on, guys. Are you really going to want to go to a club and a team where the crowd behave like that? It's not really a good advert, is it?
In that moment, though, is it, Tom? It's not about the future players in that moment. It's about the players that are out there that aren't putting in the shifts, that aren't putting in the performances, that have ultimately seen this side get relegated. That's what that's about. Forget about the future players. It's about that group of players out there who haven't been doing their jobs.
But equally, when things go well, everyone's chanting and giving it large, and it has a real atmosphere, and the players feed off that. So when things don't go well, why do we not get behind the team to try and give them a bit more oomph to get them up, as opposed to being so critical? I mean, just look at what's happened to Patrick Bamford and all the things on social media. It's been absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yet players are going to be affected by fans behaving that way. I'm not disagreeing with the fact that they've not played well. I mean, look at the table; it doesn't lie. I don't dispute that for 1 minute. But I don't think that doing what the fans do really helps the problem. I think it makes the problem worse, fueling the fire. The fire.
I think personally I've sat in Ellen Road all season. I think the fans have been super patient, actually.
Yeah, I agree.
Unto a certain point. I think about maybe 9 or 10 games ago, everyone started getting annoyed with people like Aronson a bit, I think. McKennie obviously came in. But I don't think McKennie's shown us anything to get our support, you know what I mean? I think everyone, when we were in the ground today, I don't really agree with the "you're not fit to wear the shirt" has been the last thing that players hear of the end of the season. I think that's not a good vibe. I kind of agree with that point. And it's not a blanket thing. Like, there are players, when the players came round, certain players, Ayling, Cooper, Forshaw, some of those guys got a good clap, and then other players haven't really shown that much, so they're not going to get the undying support of the fans. But I actually think they've been pretty patient in 2 pretty poor seasons, really. And I think it's just difficult because it's a crowd thing, isn't it?
I think, to be fair as well, if there's a dual thing here. I don't think the players, to be honest with you, right, that have been recruited are good enough. I just don't think they're good enough, right? Now, that doesn't mean to say that they're not trying the best. They're just not good enough to play at this level. But what you expect is, if you're bringing signings in, they're expecting the players to be good enough at this level to do simple things, to pass it 5 yards, to track back, to win tackles, to understand systems of play, to be able to play as a team. So there is something in what you're saying that I get, but the thing is, and sadly, I've been in this game a long time, and if you want the players to clap you nicely all the time, if it's not good, then it ain't going to happen, right? And it doesn't happen at Leeds, it doesn't happen at Liverpool, it doesn't happen at Man United, it just doesn't happen. If you're not playing well, they'll tell you, and that's part of it. And that's something that comes across when you're a young player trying to make your way in the game. You've got to earn the right.
And on future players on that front of things, Tom, doesn't it take a certain mentality then to represent this football club? And isn't it about the recruitment, bringing in the players who can deal with that?
Listen, let me tell you this, right? I've been a Leeds United supporter all my life, and I used to sit down there with my dad at West Stand, and I watched that great Don Revie side, and they used to batter teams, they used to murder teams, and if they weren't 2-0 up after 20 minutes, they'd give them some stick. This is the greatest Leeds United side of all time, ever. And they used to batter teams, and they'd be giving them some grief. They were rubbish, and they couldn't do this, and they couldn't do that. Do you know what I mean? And these are brilliant players. So, but my point is, if you're bringing players in that are substandard, and you're expecting them to do things that they're not capable of doing, then is it just?
Yeah. I also think that most of these players, if you ask them, like most players, I don't think that McKennie, I don't think the January lot, maybe not, but the rest of them, I think if you ask them, they think the Leeds fans are terrific. They've given them maximum support all season, and I think. And
Tom, they'll be back next season though, won't they? That's the point. They'll give them the stick today, they'll give them the flack, and it comes down to that two-way debate that you're kind of talking about there. Is it down to the players to give the fans something to cheer, or is it down to the fans to cheer the players on to raise their game? And I would always say the professional footballers being highly paid to be out there on the pitch are the ones that should be inspiring the fans who are paying to come in through the turnstiles, shouldn't they, Tom?
Well, you see, just because you say everybody else does it and they're paid a lot of money, that doesn't mean to say that they don't have, feelings like all other humans. It's like, just because everybody else, boos and stuff, that doesn't mean that it's right. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. I think if you look at Patrick Bamford, he's
the fact
a
of the
prime
matter
example.
is it happens.
Yeah, it happens in football.
So it might not be the profession for you.
And let me just say on the Patrick Bamford stuff, you're absolutely right, Tom. It was utterly disgusting and deplorable, the abuse that he got on social media. But I've also been in the stands here when he's missed opportunities and fans have chanted his name.
Also, Spurs weren't great today, were they? I mean, not really talked about that, but Spurs weren't great. They've won 4-1.
Yeah.
But if they'd have lost 2-3-0, which they could have done because they weren't very good,
easily.
Tottenham fans would have been screaming at them and booing them and all that, rather than cheering and holding the players up. Yeah.
Tom, final point. What are you thinking about the summer ahead? How are you feeling about the summer and a rebuild?
Well, I think this is the key thing for me. It's all about the coach. I think if you take Bielsa out of the equation, Leeds have not had a coach that can improve the players that we've got. Because you can't just have 11 out of the door and sign 11 in. You've got to have a coach that can raise the level of the players. I mean, look at Bielsa. He took them up and he raised them up to 9th, and then he needed some backing to raise it further. So we need a coach now that can get those players confident again and raise them so that their levels raise, and then add additions that bring in quality. I don't dispute the fact that they need a bit more quality, and I don't dispute any of the comments about recruitment, because quite frankly, I do agree. But the point that I did have was just, for me, you've got to really get behind them to keep them going. And also, I think whoever the new coach is, that is the crucial decision for next season. I think that's the biggest thing, because they need someone that can really, really help the players individually and collectively. And let's face it, there's not been many of those coaches about, has there?
No, that's Tom, who was at the game today. Tom, really appreciate your call. Safe journey home as well. Fair to say Tom's comments are causing a bit of a reaction, you would have thought so. And one of them coming into us is from Matthew, who got in touch with us, didn't want to come on air though, apparently. He says, Tom was talking nonsense about the crowd. He says, we pay the money, we're entitled to voice our opinions on a bad season. Let's go back to the phone. Someone else who was here today as well, getting in touch with us, is Andy up next, who was in the cheese wedge. Hi, Andy.
Hi, are you all right, guys?
We're okay. How are you? How was the cheese wedge today?
Noisy, but it always is. I think today, for a start, we started off with 8 defensive players on the field for a game that we've got to win. Don't matter what the other results didn't go our way anyway, but we had to win. and why you start with the 8 defensive players running Rodrigo, Jack Harrison and McKennie, McKennie in the slide, that was attacking players, all the rest were defensive, and it just don't make sense. As per your other guys, and I don't think that it's all about the coach. The coach does a lot, but it's the recruitment. Majority of those players that have been recruited over the last 3 years have never played in the Premier League. And we need players that know the Premier League or know the English football. At the moment, we've got players that haven't got a clue about it. And that's what Victor Roberts would like to say.
You were surprised, Redders, with the lineup today, weren't you? You thought it was a very defensive lineup.
All those comments, 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%, it's bang on. Because the caller before previous that said, the most important resigning in the summer's got to be the head coach. It's the next one, because if the one that makes the decisions out of the who signs the players is the director of football, then he is. Because what you can do is you can make about 15%, 20% difference, right? If you're a top coach like Marcelo Bielsa, maybe 15, 20, 25% difference, right? Players as good players, you've got to recruit the right type of players to give yourself a chance. So that is the most important role, without a shadow of a doubt. Because if you get that wrong, you see what's happened today.
The first most important thing is who's making that decision to get the director of football or whatever. So who owns the club? Who's going to make the decisions, and how quickly can they start making good ones?
It's such a big summer, Andy, isn't it? It's a huge summer now.
Huge, absolutely huge. I think Graziani has taken us as far as we can go. He's got to sell up and let the 49ers, whether they'll make a big difference, whether they've got big pockets, and whether they've got an idea. As long as they don't decide to just bring in more Americans, because again, they won't know what the English league's like. And yeah, Tyler Adams is a good player. McKennie's, I'm not too sure about him. Aronson's too much of a lightweight, just gets knocked off the ball. He has got skill, but he's too lightweight. But it's going to be a massive summer for us to actually go back up. We need to go back up automatically next season, and for us to do that, they've got to get everything right, and it's got to start now, not wait till the summer. It's got to start now. Tomorrow is too soon. It's not soon enough, sorry.
I almost think the money's not as big a problem this time. We went down last time, it was all money, money, money. This time we've got some Premier League money, but we're going to sell a couple of players for some money.
Yeah.
And the 49ers are going to come in, and they've got some money, let's hope. So I think there's a bit of money flowing around. For me, it's the other stuff. It's getting it right, because we've had coaches and we've spent money the last couple of seasons, and we've got it completely wrong.
We're still waiting to hear from Sam Allardyce, so we'll stay with you until we've heard from Big Sam, and then we will, as I say, have a live version of Don't Go to Bed Just Yet, our Leeds United podcast. But if you can't stay with us for that long, then you can hear it on BBC Sounds or wherever you get your podcasts. That'll be up tomorrow, so make sure you are with us for that. But we are still waiting for Sam Allardyce. Let's have a look at a few messages before we go back to the phone lines here. Vicky says, as other clubs push on and climb the table, get new stadiums built and secure investment, we have an owner who doesn't even give us so-and-so, she says. A record signing new players for the 21s, 3 managers in a season, a squad full of broken toys, and the fans who dare to clap these players off at the end of today's game. Where has our Leeds United gone, says Vicky on the text 81333. Tony says, we've not had a defence for 2 years, no striker and probably one decent midfielder, but we did nothing in January. We're a championship team at very best. This one says, absolutely deserved. Positives to take from this, Radrizzani can guarantee that he won't be able to enjoy his full amount of money, and he'll have a £250 million loss if he sells. Kinnear can go back to the EFL, he says, and a lot of people getting in touch as well about that. And this one from Hannah and Max says, good riddance to them all. The fans are Leeds, not those in the boardroom. And this one says, this management thought that they could make a fortune coming to Leeds. Well, it's backfired on them. Big Sam is one of the problems. 1 point from 4 games. That's from Keith, who's listening up in Yeadon. Big Sam can't stay, can he? Simon, what do you think from a fan's perspective? He's been a part, all right, albeit a small part, but he's been a part of the problem.
I don't really blame him at all, actually. I think,
really?
Nah, not really. I think he came into a difficult situation. I think he's just taken an opportunity. He thought he could maybe make a change, make some fast money, do something good for his reputation. But he's come in, and obviously, 1 point out of 4 games is absolutely diabolical. I mean, there were tough games. A couple of them were very tough games. We wouldn't expect to get any points from, but don't you just think that the problems were before him and above him? And I don't know. I do think today's lineup did have me scratching my head, and even as we were chasing the game, we didn't really make the subs very quickly and things like that. But I just think blaming Big Sam is a big. I don't know, it's misplaced.
But it's association, isn't it? It's association with this season that carries forwards into next season. Neil, do they need a sweep? Because they're going to have a lot of change in players. Do they need a sweep in terms of the coaching staff and the management as well, do you think? How do you view? I mean, you've been a player and you've been a manager, so interesting to see what you think.
You can't keep chopping and changing managers, because the idea is to build things. I mean, I wouldn't have set Sam on in the first place. His time's been and gone. He's been a good manager. His time's gone. I thought you could see that today in what he did. I think Leeds need to find somebody that's going to go with a little bit more direction. I think the direction's got to come from the top. I think whoever buys the club needs good advice from football people, not non-football people, football people who know how to build football clubs. Needs a young, up-and-coming, vibrant manager, I would have said, or head coach. And he needs to have a big say-so in who comes in, what players are bought, what players come in, because they need to build a team. Because I look at what's put out there today, to me, it's disjointed. It's a lot of players for a lot of money that doesn't look like a team. And you can't blame them, they've been recruited. If Leeds United comes in for you, sign. But if you're a right back and you've got 4 right backs, so you've got to play centre half because there's too many right, but you end up being in a mess. And that's what's happened today. And Sam's sort of juggled it round and he's messed about with it too much, which is not like Sam Allardyce. He usually goes with something and sticks with it, and it gets him over the line. But they've chopped and changed with the team too much, and they've not been able to get any momentum. Games have been tough. This is a winnable game today. You shouldn't get beat 4-1 against these. No,
definitely not.
He's just sitting down, his Big Sam, to do his press conference, so we'll bring that to you as soon as we possibly can on BBC Radio Leeds. Let's speak to Mitchell, who's given us a call on the usual number, 0800 389 3333. Hiya, Mitchell.
Hi, how you doing, guys? Brilliant.
We've had better days, yeah. We've had better days. Go on.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, the fans have been absolutely fantastic. You had an earlier caller that said that we weren't supportive enough. Well, on 80 grand, 100 grand a week, how can they ever question the support? Leeds United is one of the best in the Premier League and ever will be in the Premier League. It's just a shame that it can't be matched with the director of football, with the ownership, clear leadership. There's been none of that this season, and rightly so, deservedly so. Our project has failed.
So that project's failed. So how much do you trust Mitchell then? The same people, barring the fact that Victor Orta isn't here now, to get the next project right, because that is also one of the questions, isn't it?
I think before we even start a project, we need to know who's running it. So the likes of the 49ers, I want to know if they're actually going to be there. I feel like the fan base is almost in disarray because nobody really knows what's going to happen. You see today the players, I don't really trust one of them. I like Forshaw. I think that lad puts himself about. The players like someone like next to McKennie, who is absolutely rubbish. I tell you what, said it a lot before. How some players make it to this level, I will never know. Someone like Weston McKennie, come off it. How can he be at Leeds United? And this is why we're going down, because of players like that. And for me, as a whole, it's been an absolute disastrous season because of people like this who have brought him in. We at the halfway point, we had 21 points on the board. After spending £80 million or whatever the figure was in January, we've come away with 10 since. So what does that tell you? Andrea, he needs to get out of the club, first of all. We need to take, obviously Victor's gone. Angus is the usual scapegoat that comes out with his rubbish that, we're doing this, we're doing that. Even for the badge situation, look at 2017. I go back to that and we consulted 10,000 fans. It's absolute rubbish and the playing us blind. And I tell you what, I'm still expecting my money back because we've now been relegated and I do not want it in vouchers. If that will be the last of that. I am not having it in vouchers. It needs to be, I want the money in the account. And I don't come on and say that often, but it's just been that disgraceful today. I'm just totally annoyed and angry with all of them. It's a joke.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people listening to you, Mitchell, will feel exactly the same. Thanks for getting in touch today and throughout the season as well. The 10% money back is going to be the only slight silver lining, isn't it, Simon, for those with season tickets, if it comes in money and not in, as Mitchell puts it, vouchers.
In their shirts, yellow away shirts. We don't have to sign McKennie?
Yeah, that's another silver lining, I suppose, isn't it? Yeah, he hasn't done it, has he?
And 8 more games?
8 more games next season, yeah. 8 more games on BBC Radio Leeds for you next season. Let's go to Catherine Hanna. She's milling around outside and she's with some Leeds fans.
I am, yeah. I've been all round the ground. Been to Gravely's, been to the pub, all kinds. We're sort of up in the car parks now, just waiting where the team buses are all coming out. Lots of Leeds fans still hanging around to kind of see what the aftermath of today's game is. Somebody who's part of the Leeds United Supporters Network. Hello, sir. What's your name?
Carl Gannon here.
Carl, how are you feeling right now, dare I ask?
Bit down, but we got to go again. Clear out, rebuild, and we go again.
Was it one of those that you sort of turned up today, pretty much resigned that relegation was going to happen?
Well, I just turned up thinking we just got to win and then just hope the other teams do us a favour, but they didn't and we didn't win, so we got to go.
Big summer ahead then. What do you think are the things that need addressing if Leeds are going to bounce back quickly from getting relegated?
Well, we need a proper manager that knows the English game inside out, preferably British. More homegrown talent coming through and blood the youngsters in from the academy.
Yeah, on the manager thing then, I mean, are you somebody that would maybe stick with Big Sam, or have you got other names in mind that you would go with?
Don't know, I don't really know. Big Sam, he knows it, but whether he wants to stay is another thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we picked up 1 point from the 4 games. It's a bit disheartening, but
yeah,
to see what happens.
Yeah, that's it. You've come from quite a long way away, and you come to every single Leeds United game. Whereabouts are you from?
Welsh, from Mid Wales.
So how long's it taken you to drive up here today?
About 2.5 hours.
Yeah, that's some commitment, that. Do you feel angry at all about some of the performances over the course of the season, or feelings towards the players at the moment?
A little bit angry because there's games where we took the chances we should have won, like Newcastle. We could have got something out of Arsenal at home. Some of the performances, we started off the season well, and it's just since the international break it's gone downhill.
But we go again, so lots of things need sorting over the summer, don't they? Is getting the right head coaching going to be the key one for you? Head
coach, the takeover's got to go through, and we got to completely reshape the backroom team and the board, and get people that can take us to the next level.
Start again in August. Quick shout out for the people that you've come up with today as well.
I come up with my sister Laura and my nephew Harry.
Laura and Harry, they were too shy to come on the radio, but we give you a good shout out. Thanks for having a chat. Have a good summer, and we'll see you back in August.
Right, see you again.
There you go. Cheers, Johnny. Back to you.
Yeah, they will be coming back in August, no matter where they're driving from, as I'm sure many of you will be right now, even if you're just up the hill at Beeston Hill or somewhere up in Wortley or Armley. You'll definitely be back next season, we're assured of that. Lots of messages coming into us here. Gus from Menston says, a point on the fans and the club. We've sold out every game this season, home and away. These players have not shown anything on the pitch for us. No fight, passion or desire. We've all spent a lot of money travelling up and down the country to support a bunch of players who have not reciprocated the support at all. Most important thing for me this summer is repairing that relationship with the fans and the players, along with the rebuild, the recruitment and the ownership, of course, says Gus. That's a pretty good message from Gus there, because that disconnect between the fans and the ownership and the board and the players right now is huge, Neil. Absolutely huge.
But that's why it's important that you build properly, that you recruit properly, that you get the right people in, you let the head coach, whoever it is, you put faith in him, and you let him bring his own players in, and you build a team, that represents the values of the club. Now, the values of the club, I mean, I used to say this to the kids where when they went out, and if they got opportunity to go and play for the first team, is if you want to get them behind you, right, good tackling, forward passing, good finishing, hit the target, give them things that get them off the seat, and they'll get behind you. It's not rocket science. You know what I mean? You don't have to go into great detail with stats and all that crap. You just got to do the basic things that the people want to see. And it gets complicated and it's got lost in recent times, and I think that's what it needs. It needs some proper clarity, from whoever comes in. It needs them allowed the chance to build a team properly, and then let them get on with it.
That's a big ask for a summer, isn't it, Simon? To get all that done.
I was going to say, the South Stand seemed to be having fun despite what was happening on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? I think the Leeds fans are quite good at that, just sort of getting on with it, because even Tottenham weren't that good, so it wasn't a great game to watch. Even, do you know what I mean? Even if you're losing, but it's a lot of work to be done, and there's not that many weeks till pre-season. What we talked about the other day, is it 6 weeks till pre-season?
Yeah, well, the season starts now, the first week of August, doesn't it? So that's just over 10 weeks away.
And pre-season first week in July.
Yeah, trip to Norway, take on Manchester United. Yeah, interesting one. Let's go to Russell, who's giving us a call. Hi, Russell.
How are you guys? You okay?
Yeah, we're okay. Go on. How are you feeling?
I'm just glad it's over. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, it is, isn't it? It's just been depressing for what? We lost the last 10, not lost. I'm just glad it's all over and we can reset, redo, just move on, because we're just fed up with it all. Fed up with from the ownership to the players, even some of the old guard now. I'm glad it's all done and dusted, and we know where we stand. There was never a time. Today, even when there was never a time I thought was even going to get close to staying up over the last couple of weeks. I think the last time I was half excited was after the Forest when I rang you, and it's just been downhill from now. So, yeah, I'm glad it's all done and dusted now. We know where we stand.
Yeah, it didn't at any point today, did it, Redders? Really look like Leeds were going to be the side in the ascendancy, been behind after, 90 seconds?
Yeah, I think the initial goal did them, because it was just the nature of it. It was really passive. To let them get in and around the box, and then obviously, you've got Son and Harry Kane, two quality players, and they make it look easy. And and the poor nature of conceding like that, and then it gets everybody on the back foot. And they did rally a little bit from there, but it just all looked disjointed. I mean, in some ways, I'll take this the right way, I felt a little bit for the players today, because it just didn't look right. They didn't look like they were set up right. It didn't look like they got a chance to go after them. You could see that they were going to play out from the back. You could see the things that they were going to do, Spurs, and I think you could have matched them up and gone after them and made it a lot harder for them.
And we got to 2-1 though, didn't we? I was like, if we can get a goal, this will be properly, even though we're going to go down, it'll be exciting, the crowd will be on side, everything will be exciting. And then it was 2 minutes, and we just got again, and it's just done.
Russell, what needs to be job number one then, right now, for the ownership of the club? The ownership aren't here today, but for the ownership of the club, what needs to be job number one?
Figure out who's going in the sense of the players. I'm sure they've got release clauses. Agents probably working away in the background to get them out. The takeover, because we seem to have a takeover that takes 2 years, which I've never heard of in football, but it's Leeds. So there's your first two thoughts of job. See what's actually going on from the top, and who we're left with, and who do we look to kind of bring in. I mean, the only consolation I have got is it'd be nice to start winning games again, hopefully down in the Championship, and we should have a nucleus of a team where we'll be half decent down there. And it's weird, once you start getting on a run of winning games, you do breed confidence. One more thing, just in case you don't ask another question. Guess who I made my FPL captain? But this is what my thought process was, and I can send this. To you. So you got Harry Kane. I'm having Harry Kane because everything's the way it's all going, and I've won a few of my leagues because of it. But I sat there. There's a famous GIF of a really angry face. It's got a smiley mask in front of it. If you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I was like that with my fantasy football. I was like, I'm cleaning up here, but Leeds get relegated. But that was my GIF today. My face.
Yeah.
I was like, great.
You're not the only one who will have had Harry Kane, I'm sure, in the Fantasy Premier League today. Russell, thank you for your call today and throughout the season as well. We'll speak to you next season as I just look down onto the pitch here and see some of the families out there on the field. I saw out there a few moments ago was Patrick Bamford, not involved today. Junior Firpo's out there right now, as is Robles, the goalkeeper. They're trudging, I would say now, towards the tunnel down in front of us to our right-hand side here. We'll go and get some more messages as well. Let's have a look at a few of these that are coming into us here. Lots of them. So thank you very much for these. Apologies if I haven't got to yours. Dave says, hey up gang. He says, so no coach, no director of football, owner very likely to leave, as well as a number of players. What about Angus Kinnear? Do you think he goes, lads? I mean, he's the only bit of stability at the moment, isn't he, Angus Kinnear?
That's the only problem, I think, is you can't get rid of everybody, can you? I mean, I think there's a temptation just to throw it all in the bin, obviously, but got to have somebody. So I think Angus probably manages to stay. Eddie, probably keep him. Keep
Eddie around, won't we?
I think the other thing as well is I think when your new ownership comes in, they will bring a chief exec in. There's no two ways about it, you know, and that's no disrespect to Angus Kinnear, but I would have thought they'll bring their own people with them.
Yeah, there's going to be more change at that level as well, isn't there? We will, like I say, if there's any news that comes on that front of things, we will bring that to you, of course, here on BBC Radio Leeds. This one says, I hope we clear out the expensive players and play the youth next season, especially the ones who have championship experience. No legs, Ayling and Cooper are done and dusted for me. I'd be happy to have Gary McAllister back in as manager. I did look at Cody Drameh yesterday when he was celebrating with the Luton players about getting into the Premier League and thought, see you next season, son, back in the Championship. I wonder how that feels.
Needs another season in the Championship. Luckily, we can oblige.
But there have been some in the Championship that have got a lot of experience this season.
Well, Creswell, Shackleton, you know, Millwall have had a decent season. Yeah, Gellart, you know what I mean? So you've got the basis of a side.
We're not going to lose everyone, are we, as well? And I actually thought Ayling, today gave me a bit of faith that Ayling and Coops and Forshaw maybe have got a little bit more left in the tank, maybe at Championship level. I felt a little bit like I thought maybe they were all done, and you know they are a little bit like the experience, aren't they, that we need. Brought us up before, and I think we'll be absolutely desperate to get us back up.
Well, that's the key as well. That's a good point, because they know the way up. You know, they've been promoted with Leeds before, so you need a smattering of players that have got the experience of getting a side up.
Let's speak to Martin. Hiya, Martin.
Hello, boys. Not a great day, obviously. No. I think looking back on it all, really, and it's been a hell of a whirlwind the last 15 months. I think, you know, there's a couple of things really. One of them is we've lost a Bielsa legacy, which is a bit sad. You know, there was a time there a couple of years ago, and I know no Leeds fan wants to hear this, but Leeds were actually becoming people's second team. There was one or two people out there, unbelievably. And we've lost that, but I mean that doesn't matter. None of that matters. But we've lost that sort of, you know, there's a whole generation of fans out there, young kids growing up, and they're seeing Leeds in a different light under Bielsa, the way we were playing. And you know, well, maybe they'll stick with us, maybe they won't. That doesn't matter. That's just really that's just, you know, a bit of nonsense really. I think the next bit is going forward, and I think we can get it wrong or we can get it right. Now we're at the crossroads. You know, we can do what Burnley did if we get it right, or we can, you know, we know what happens. You know, you can drop into League One, and I'd love to. I'm trying to think, racking my brain, young manager, coach. You know, who would we bring in? And I'm struggling to think of somebody, and maybe other people have got ideas out there. But I think we could do a lot worse than either Simon Grayson or Neil Redfern, because I think Neil Malley's under a worse ownership than we have now, and that's quite hard to say. But Neil did a fantastic job actually keeping Leeds in the Championship so they could get promotion. And I think if if Neil hadn't done that, we wouldn't have made the Premier League.
I mean, I guess a lot of people will now start to turn their attentions, won't they, towards what happens moving forwards. I'm looking at Patrick Bamford down there right now, and he's got his family with him. He's out on the pitch. He was injured, so couldn't play today. He's still got time left on his contract. It runs until 2026. You know, if he can get fit and healthy, and he can be someone who plays week in, week out for Leeds next season, what do you think in terms of him leading that line, Martin, and being the man who can once again get the goals to get them out of the Championship?
Well, it's only a matter of, you know, obviously the big problem with Patrick has obviously been fitness always, you know, and it still is a problem. I think I agree with what you were saying previously. I think we do need a few experienced players. I think the likes of Forshaw, who's finally fit seemingly and having a run of games. You know, he's a decent, honest player. I think he would certainly do a job in the Championship, and we need to keep him. We've got to look at a few of them. Bamford, yeah, if he's fit, it's a possibility. You know, I mean, I don't know. What are we going to do with Ruta? Are we going to get rid of him? You know, it's just so difficult to say. But we need somebody who can steady the ship, and you know, and I think we need somebody who actually understands what Leeds United are all about. And that's why I've named the names I've named. But as I say, I didn't want to say personally to Neil, if he hadn't kept us in the Championship, we'd be worse off than we are now.
Thanks for getting in touch this evening. Leeds United have just released a statement on their website. I'll read it for you. This is the first time I'm reading it through, so you're hearing this as it's just been announced. Everyone connected with Leeds United is deeply disappointed by the club's relegation back to the Sky Bet Championship after 3 seasons in the Premier League. Relegation is painful, and we apologise to our fan base that the performances this season have not seen the club consolidate our status as we had all hoped. However, Leeds United remains in a strong position to build a team that can challenge for promotion from the Championship next season. We know things have not been good enough, we know we have to improve, but please be assured that behind the scenes we have worked hard to ensure that the past will not be repeated. Our focus is now on how we get straight back to the Premier League. Thank you for your unwavering support for the players and the badge. Our objective is to continue to build the club into the one that you deserve. And that's where the statement ends. It's not attributed to anybody. There are no quotes from anybody at the club. None of the hierarchy are quoted in it. Thoughts on that? Firstly, let's go to, well, both of you are fans here. Let's go with you, Simon, first. Your thoughts on the statement?
It's fine, isn't it? But it's not given us anything really to go on, is it? I think after this season, we just really need to know the questions we've already asked in this today already. Like, who's going to be in charge? Who's making the decisions? Is it Andrea? Is it the 49ers? Is it somebody else? Who's going to appoint a director of football or similar? And when are we going to start? Which players are going to stay and leave? These, just need some detail on how they think they're going to do that, basically, because what we've seen this season is they wanted to stay in the Premier League. They wanted to be 10th to 14th. That was the plan. So the plan next year is to get promoted, but we failed this year, so we need to see something that means we can be, can rely on them to deliver it. Yeah, it doesn't really tell us anything, does it, Neil?
No, it's generic. It's something that's just put out there to appease. I agree with Simon, he's right, he's spot on. There needs to be some detail and some clarity around it to give people that little bit of hope. Then, they need to feel like there's a plan. What we're going to do now, how we're going to go about this. And, it needs to be convincing.
Yeah, get in touch with us. Let us know your thoughts on that as we've just read it out, the statement that's just been issued by Leeds United. As I say, no quotes from anybody in the hierarchy of the football club. Unattributed is a statement, but it comes from the club as a whole. Let's have a look at a few more messages coming into us. We'll hopefully hear from Big Sam in the not too distant future. He's finished his press conference now, so hopefully we'll be able to bring you some of that. This one comes into us here saying, sort out both the Rads and the 49ers. They're too commercial and they're too Americanised moving forwards. Cool Hands in Kirkstall says, so Catherine's been over to Gravely's and the old Peacock talking to people. She says she does right. She says she'll be pog-pied by 8 o'clock tonight. More productive than trying to make sense of this embarrassing, disastrous season. The club and the incredible support will get us back to the Premier League. It must start in the summer with a complete rebuild of the team, both on and off the field, and it is a full rebuild that is going to be needed this summer as well, isn't it? And other people getting in touch with us on Twitter. This one says, Tim, talking about Tom, who was on the phones earlier, says, is Tom living in a real world? I agree with what he said regarding the Bamford stuff, but the rest, fans pay their money to be entertained, which hasn't happened this season. Bad management, bad recruitment, bad performances equals relegation. And the Bulgarian White says the 49ers are to blame here. They had too much influence. American players and manager, weak owner, also a coward, he says, in terms of not turning up. We owe over £110 million in transfer fees before we even start to buy players. It's shambolic, he says, does the Bulgarian White on Twitter. Lots of people getting in touch with us. What about that ownership wrangling, Simon? How much has that been a problem for this season, do you think, in terms of that battle between them?
I just think ongoing it's been a problem. I think the 49ers coming in on the first sight, it seems like a very good thing, but the fact it's dragged on so long has just meant that we've become short-sighted. So presumably Radrizzani's not wanting to put loads of money into something that he's going to sell, and it goes back to the Bielsa season really, where it felt like they were sort of he's been winding up for such a long time, that he is going to sell it in 2024, that we're just stuck. So we just need it to happen, basically. We need that direction, and to have someone like someone was saying earlier, have someone. Bielsa was such a person, like, we all loved him, but part of the thing was that he controlled everything. He controlled the smallest details in the ground, in the training ground, the players' regimes, and everything was, fine detail and how he wanted it. And I don't think he got everything right. Like, there's things he definitely got wrong, but at least someone was taking complete ownership of it and getting most of it right. And it seems now it's been like, it's just incrementally getting things wrong, and people, I don't know, I suppose Victor took a lot of control, I guess, but it just felt like there wasn't someone it's so much in charge. You know what I mean? It's like a bit more committee, I guess.
Yeah, and that's what you've had crazy owners in the past, Neil Redfern, haven't you? It's you pick your owners, as someone once said.
Well, the hardest thing is managing up. I mean, obviously something that he probably didn't do that well, to be honest with you, Bielsa, if I'm honest. Do you know what I mean? Because he wanted it how he wanted it, and that's it. You know, he even sent his own. They sent the contract out, and he rewrote it and sent it back, didn't he, before he came in? And that's what he wanted to do. And if you can get that utopia as a manager, perfect. I just think that, you know, it's direction that they need. I think the 49ers have had too much of a say with not the guarantee that they're going to buy it. Do you know what I mean? And I think they've probably had some say in Marsh coming in. I think they've probably had some say in the American players coming in. And for me, not good enough. You know, not necessarily Marsh, but, you know, the players that have come in have not been good enough. They're not good enough to play at this level. You know, and I think it's just been one thing after another. So yeah, like Simon says, it needs some clarity. It needs some direction from the top. You know, everybody needs to know what's happening. And then, you know, you need to get the right football person at the top of it and let him go for it.
It's like the Jack Harrison thing, wasn't it? Where Jack Harrison was like in Leicester getting his medical, then he's not going because I think the 49ers woke up and were like, oh no, we don't want that, and then the next week he gets a new contract. It's like complete reversal.
Yeah, that was a strange scenario and summed up the conflict, I suppose you could say, at the top of the club, didn't it? Sam Ricks from the Kaiser Chiefs and Neil Redfern, former Leeds boss, here with me, Johnny Buchan, inside the West Stand. We'll hear from Sam Allardyce in a few moments' time, and then we will bring you a live version of Don't Go to Bed Just Yet, our Leeds United podcast. If you haven't listened to it yet, there are 37 episodes out there that you can listen to. Just go to BBC Sounds, iTunes or Spotify, search for Don't Go to Bed Just Yet, hit subscribe and you will not miss an episode. We'll do a proper season review this coming Thursday, but we'll do a bit of a live reaction for you on BBC Radio Leeds, so make sure you do stay with us for that, or if you can't stay with us, as I say, just go and search for it wherever you get your podcasts and you'll be able to listen to it at your own free will on Bank Holiday Monday, probably with a hangover, which is likely, isn't it? As we look out onto the field here and see just still some family and friends milling around here. Patrick Bamford's still out there on the pitch right now. I think he's the only player right now who's out there on the field having a bit of a stroll around with his family. Could he be the man to lead Leeds United next season back into the Premier League at the first time of asking? Because that is what is going to be the case now. Just to remind you, Everton are the side that stay in the Premier League after they were winners at home today against Bournemouth. Leicester also won their game, did their bit, but sadly for them it wasn't enough, so they will join Leeds United down in the Championship next season. So it's going to be a competitive Championship next season with Southampton, Leicester and Leeds United added to it as well. So we will be able to bring you full match commentary of every single game next season, hopefully, as Leeds United do put in a bit of a charge to try and get themselves back at the first time of asking, and they don't have another 16-year wait as happened last time they dropped down back in 2004. We thank you very much for being with us as well on BBC Radio Leeds throughout this campaign in the Premier League, and I'm sure hopefully you'll be with us again next season when the Whites are down in the Championship. Let me just have a look at a couple more messages coming into us here. This one comes into us on Twitter. This one says, not sure what concerns me most. Either the 49ers have been planning in the background and a deal with Rads has already been done, just depending on price versus what league we're in, or they've said nothing because they agree with all that he's done. Not sure which of those worries me the most. Right then, let's hear, shall we, from Sam Allardyce, the Leeds United boss, speaking after his side's 4-1 loss and their relegation to the Championship.